takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, they got me.
All right, guys, another week in the books. I think 2 out of the 3. It's been a lot of this year where 2 out of the 3 have lost. That's too much for this show of our hosts. But yeah, Alex and I both lost last week. Alex still remains in his bye week, being the bye week. But I think that might come to an end. We'll get to that at the predictions. But how's everybody doing? It's Halloween weekend, so that's nice.
Doing good, man. I'm more resting up this weekend for next weekend. Maybe we'll get to that on this show. Who knows? But no, I mean, yeah, it was unfortunate. 2 of our hosts lost. I mean, it helps me, but again, just for the integrity of the show, you never like seeing the majority of the co-hosts losing on a given week. But brighter days ahead, hopefully.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough week. I had so many people on bye, and then especially my main guys, James Robinson and Zeke and Claypool was on bye, and then obviously Darren Waller gets ruled out right before the game, and so it was tough. And I only lost by less than a point. I think it was like 0.6 that I lost by. So you hate to see that. That was between that week and this week, I need to win one of them, and that's kind of how especially with everyone coming back in 2 weeks, that was kind of a win that I needed. But it's all right. Hoping to bounce back, this week, and had a decent start with James Conner. So we'll see. It's gonna be a tough matchup, though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one for sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's go right into it. To start off, we're gonna go with our new number 1 seed, C Pizzle. Cobb, talk about C Pizzle's Mr. MIA's victory last week over Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw this. The first thing I sent CP when he was winning was, you got to give us a blueprint for that defense you got, because CP week after week just seems to get the lowest scoring player. It's kind of reminiscent of my first championship run where I didn't have it wasn't like this, but I remember being able to go against a lot of guys and them not really being able to score much. But I mean, overall, I mean, the disaster season for Paul just continues. Tannehill, his quarterback, not one of the better quarterbacks in the league, still got him a respectable 20. But then he's starting like a crapshoot like Rondale Moore, who he just shipped away this week along with Odell to Stu. And then I mean, just you see how reliant Paul is on his running backs when Saquon's out, when Chubb's out. This team isn't really that scary. Derrick Henry had a slow week for him, even though he got a 17. Jonathan Taylor did pretty well. But other than that, like, there's really nothing else that Paul's team can really stand on. He's not that far out of contention, but he's kind of almost on the edge of maybe wanting to ship some guys out and looking on to next year. It's just not his year. On the other hand, CP, I don't know how he does it. And I think his team isn't at its peak performance yet. So I feel like him getting all these wins now. I mean, Stafford's been doing great, but he still hopefully is getting CMC back. Ridley should be seeing some brighter games than he has been with all the targets he's gotten. But yeah, just a disastrous season for Paul and a miracle season for CP continuing to go on.
Yeah, and Paul, I don't think he's going to be a seller I mean, he's selling like guys on his depth to get starters because he wants to continue to contend. And I think at some point you kind of need to like just hold off on that, kind of keep your assets so you can trade for picks next year, because that's been kind of Paul's problem. He doesn't really have a lot of picks to in the early rounds of the draft because he keeps all these high tenors. And he's trading me Kadarius Toney. He's trading me a 4th for Kadarius Toney. It doesn't help him either. So Paul's kind of a wreck over there. I mean, he has a good team, but I don't know what's going on with him. We're going to have to figure it out in the offseason when we get to that. But we're going to go to the number 2 matchup last week. Probably the game of the week based on coming down to the Monday night and just the lowest, I mean, 0.8 or whatever loss. So Big Barry Sales lost to Kale Fraud. Kale Fraud needed this game. Alex, it really didn't matter to Alex. He's 5-1 at this point. Losing another game. He can lose 2 more games and he's like out of the fray. But I will say it's funny. This might be the most amount of players in a matchup where they score 0 without them being like out like, without like starting a bye week player or something, because Barry started Aaron Donald got 0. You had Peoples Jones, who got hurt during the game, got a 0. Also, Barry started Damian Williams, which I thought was a horrible start. On Sunday, when I thought you were going to win, Alex, I texted, was like, dude, why would you start Damian Williams? The guy just got back from COVID yesterday, and like they said he wasn't going to be like the guy. And then he had no reason behind why he started him. But yeah, overall, I think, just that, it was anyone's game. You got 23 from Derek Carr. You said all you wanted was 20 from him, and you knew that's what you were going to be getting, even without having the stack with Waller last week. I mean, you did what you could do. And then I think the Peoples Jones obviously was the one that hurt you. I think you have anybody in that line, anybody else in that line, you win. I thought it was kind of a weird start because I think there was other guys I would have started on your bench alone. I would have started what's his name, the tight end from Cincinnati over Peoples Jones as a second flex. I mean, as the last flex, I would have started him over that. I know he had a 21. I would think Uzamoa would get a 21, but I would think it'd be more than a 0. But yeah, Barry's team. Obviously, the stack with Rodgers and DeMonte did well. Gaskin finally started Gaskin on a week. He did something, and Gesicki. But overall, Bears team sucks, and Zach Ertz pretty good. Overall, his team's not good. If you just look at the two teams, I think you have a better team than Barry. But the luck of the draw, and you had to start Donovan Peoples-Jones for whatever reason, and that's the reason why you ended up losing. I do think it was a good matchup for both of you. The fact that you had a 0 in your lineup is still. And this isn't even your main team. The fact that you did this and you still got 132, pretty solid. So I think you should be happy about the loss in a way, silver lining there. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also technically I had 5 guys out of my lineup between CEH, Russell Wilson, my 3 guys on bye, and last minute Waller, got ruled out, and I had to plug in Foster Moreau.
Moreau did pretty good though.
Start. He did. And that was a clutch start by me. There was a couple, people, and that actually came down to, with Usman on my bench, there was a 50-50 chance that Waller was going to play, and he's just one of my top players, and I had to ride him out, and he got ruled out about an hour before the game, and unfortunately Usman was a 1:00 start, and so. I knew Moreau's going to have a good day, filling in for that role there. And so it ended up almost winning me the game. But yeah, it was tough. Down basically 6 starters on my lineup and almost winning a game. Not much you can do there, but I'll take it.
Pretty good. And I also want to say this. So outside that one game that Waller blew up, Waller really hasn't had that many good weeks, big weeks. Moreau's 16 right there would have been Waller's second highest score of the year, because Waller had 20 and then he had a 14. That's the second highest. Moreau giving him a 16, and plus you add Waller's last 2 weeks together, it still doesn't add. It wouldn't even get out what Moreau got last week.
Yeah,
so that was a good start. All right, so the next one, Alex, talk to us about my loss to DK's Dollar Bills.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was it was a tough game for you, and obviously there's been a lot of Chiefs slander in the media this past week, and people are saying that the Chiefs are done, Mahomes is done, and obviously they're going to bounce back. We know that their offense, but when you have a week where, the Chiefs only put up 3 points in a week, that's unheard of with this, the last couple of years of this Chiefs offense. And so, having a quad stack, you live and die by it, as we know. And so if they're going to be putting up a 3, the fact that you even put up 20 points is pretty amazing. That just shows that you have, decent depth around you, which maybe in the couple of years past, you haven't had that type of, depth that provides you that safe floor. If, for whatever reason, your stack just gets annihilated, which it did this week. And, I don't think going forward the rest of the season that they will, combine. I don't even know what the combined total was. Like, I don't know.
36 between the 4 of them. So
36 between the 4 of them. That's probably the lowest that will happen the entire season. And so it is tough, when that happens. I know that Ruben was dealing with a couple of bye weeks as well, but still, I think any week that happens to the Chiefs offense, you're not going to win. So, hopefully for your sake, there's only a few of them going forward. And they, continue to bounce back. Especially with, I know there's an issue with their defense, but, hopefully that plays into your advantage, later in the season. Maybe they're down in games and their offense has to come back. And so, going forward, I don't suspect that, this quad stack, there might be some people saying, maybe the Mahomes stack's done. I don't think it's done. It's obviously, especially fantasy wise, I think they're going to continue to produce. It's just a tough week for you. I don't even have much to say about Ruben's team. I mean, he putting up 137 is great with a couple guys on bye, but overall, I just think that, you live and die by the stack. When the stack has a miserable week like it did, you're just not going to be on the winning end. So that's kind of the tale of this tape.
Yeah. I mean, and then just a 36 between four guys, Mahomes just gets a 20. You think about the things here. Derrick Johnson got a 27 for him. Ridiculous. Tua probably got his highest score he's ever had in fantasy. I mean, a lot of things went right for him, and he only scored a 137. So it's not like, oh, I'm scared of Ruben's team. It's not. I mean, just my stack got a fucking 36 from between four guys. I mean, you can't really do much about that. All right. So next one, Cobb, talk to us about make Hotch great again versus ZT's fantasy team. ZT done.
You said it. I mean, first things first, Hotch, highest scorer of the week. I was just looking at it. This is the first week that a team didn't break 150.
Holy shit.
Matter of fact, it's the first time that two teams hadn't broke 150. So kind of a low scoring week, if you look at it that way. But yeah, I mean, Hotch continues to win, and I feel like every week he reshapes his team. Tom Brady has been doing amazing for his team. He just shipped him out for Joe Burrow and Javonte and then he had Terry, traded him away for Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase went off this week, and I mean I like that trade for Hodge. Obviously, like, it worked out in his favor because Jamar Chase just seems more consistent than Terry. And even when, like, Aaron Jones, this is kind of the games you get with Aaron Jones. He has games where he'll get you 30, 35. Then you'll also get the couple games that he gets you under 10. This was one of those, and the fact that Hodge was able to dominate just speaks volumes about how good his team is from top to bottom. He has a lot of playmakers, a lot of guys that can blow up at any given week. On the other hand, with ZT, I mean, sitting at 10th place now after that loss, his team's just looking rough. Lamar's been doing a lot better than he was last year. So, he's got to be happy about that. But outside of that, I mean, Mike Evans had, I would assume, going to be his best game of the season, and you're going to lose off that. Antonio Gibson with his shin issues, and then also just having to keep up with Green Bay. We talked about on this show that we were thinking it was going to be a McKissick game. They didn't really use Gibson much, and it seems like he keeps getting phased out of that offense because the football team just suck. And then, yeah, it's just like this unfortunate week for ZT, only scoring 117. He's kind of used to these beatdowns, I guess, but just kind of another guy that I'm thinking that you need to start looking for towards next year. I'm ready to put the done chain on ZT, I think. And Hodge, obviously, a serious contender.
Some can make the argument that ZT already did do that by doing that trade with me last offseason, getting a lot of picks for next year's draft for a second round pick. So maybe
his head wasn't in the season. It shows.
Yeah, not good. All right, next matchup, Alex. Can you talk to us about what is this? Protect the Throne versus Stu.
Yeah, this is definitely a much needed win for Cobb, getting back in the win column after falling down to, I think, 6th place, sitting at 3-3. And this was kind of a deciding week. Obviously, we know that Cobb has a better team right now than Stu, but if Stu had won like 2 games in a row, if Stu wins this game, all of a sudden Cobb falls to 3-4. That could be the first time in maybe 3-4 years. I don't know that he's been below 500, and so that would be a huge storyline right now. But luckily for Cobb's team, he was able to pull it off. And I think when you go down the list, obviously Alvin Kamara just had a monster game. They finally started to use him correctly in kind of the passing game, and that New Orleans just really doesn't have a lot of passing options right now with Michael Thomas out, and they finally just started checking down to him. And I think he had 31 touches. I have Kamara in another league, and he was a monster that night. And so you look at the score and it was pretty lopsided, a 40-point win, but there's just multiple people, when you take a look at Stu's team, Mike Davis, McCole Hardman, Julio, who just got rolled out for this next week, who looks like he's pretty much done. He might retire after this year. Who knows? Relying on guys like McKissick. I mean, he basically is relying on 3 people to get all of his fantasy points between Pitts, DeAndre Hopkins, and then Hurts. And, competing, especially in this modern era with so many good teams, you're not going to win a game with three people that, you only have three people on your team that have like a floor of over, 10 points. You know what I mean? Like all these other guys are on a good week are getting like 12s. And so there's just not much that he could do against Cobb's team, especially Cobb, having most of his guys healthy this week. It was a good win for him. And this is, he's right back on track where he needs to be. And you just see a pretty well-balanced attack when you look at his, his lineup. Not many of his core guys got below 10s. And it was a week that he needed. And, I think he feels good about, and hopefully he can build momentum and try to fight back and kind of that bye week race.
I mean, going into this game, we talked about on the show, is Stu had a lot of good matchups, and it was one of those kind of like upset alert games. You saw it with Kyle Pitts in the first game of the week going off, and I was like, oh shit, like Stu might have a good week ahead of him. But thankfully, my guys pulled it out and were able to give me a good score. I mean, it's 148. That's kind of like around the lowest I want to be scoring on a weekly basis. That might be just a little greedy on my part. That's kind of the expectations we had in that locker room. But no, I'm glad I was able to pull out that win.
So last matchup was my one of my favorites of the week last week was the Tomato Bowl. Tomato King Bowl. And my guy prevailed. But both my guys, Roden, who I love his team this year, which he might make the playoffs. I'm telling you, Roden might make the playoffs. And then my other guy, Adam, who I've had a bet against him for the rest of the season. He prevailed as well by losing again. 106. He's kind of getting, that's becoming his average. Like I think his average score outside last week's anomaly. He's gotten like 100 to like 110. That's like his average. It's like his median score right there. But yeah, Amon St. Brown, I thought that was a weird start from the get-go, but he got a 0. So I'm like, I don't understand. The team is a bad team. I don't know how to say much about it. But Roden, Burrow, he got his last game in with Burrow, got a 39. Didn't start Antonio Brown. He was out last week. But Godwin tore it up. Chase Edmonds had a big week. I think he had a big week this week. I don't know if he started him, but I like Roden's team. It's peaking at a right time, and this is the time he needed to peak. I mean, he's 2-5 right now. It's really not that far out of the gate. I think we have 5 and 6 right now. Wait, 5 and 6 seeds, or what, 3 and 4? Let's see. No, they're 4.
No, they're 4 and 3. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, he's got to win. I mean, and I think he's got a good team for it, and I like what he's doing with the trade. He's copying one of the owners on the panel, or one of the hosts on the panel's blueprint of a triple stack, and I like what Roden's what he's got cooking up. So Roden, my dark horse to make the playoffs as of right now. But yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, so that was the last matchup of recaps or last week. Let's go to the preview section for week 8, and we're gonna start off with our good buddy, probably one of the biggest frauds of a 1 seed ever, but we're still halfway through the season. We'll kick it off with Alex. Talk to us about Mr. MIA versus Chasing Canton, week 1. Start us off here, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it kind of throughout the couple weeks that I don't hate CP's team, but I think he's had obviously a lot of luck. He's had a lot of good matchups, and he's had some good defensive starts. I think he's managing his team well, and we keep saying, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And maybe that's the case. I think they're looking like CMC might be active next week off IR. And so we'll see. I mean, if he can get a win this week and go to 7-1 with, CMC coming back. I know right now, and this is something to note, we are exactly halfway through the regular season of fantasy. There is 14 regular season games. We've played 7. There's 7 regular seasons left. 7 regular season games left. He's obviously in the 1 seed right now. He's got a 1 game advantage, in that seed. If he wins this week with 6 games left, and he's 7-1, what happens? Let's just say hypothetically you beat me this week, right? He would have a 2-game advantage holding on to that 1 seed with CMC coming back. We're saying that his team's a fraud. There's a legitimate shot that as much of a fraud as it is, getting off to this good of a start, he legitimately could end up with this bye week. I know we're like, we're waiting for him to collapse, but it's a legitimate thing that can happen. Now he needs to win this week to kind of get that momentum going into next week with CMC coming back, but he's going to have a tough matchup here. You're taking a look at Stafford going in a great matchup against Houston, and obviously Brady versus New Orleans. I have that as a wash. Godwin with Antonio Brown out should have a good game. Cooks, he's kind of hit or miss. They're saying Dalton Mills is going to be starting again. I'm going to lean Godwin, but I think it's kind of a wash. We'll say Henderson gets a 14, so I think that's kind of a wash. Right now, it's pretty close. Tight end's kind of a wash. A slight edge to Noah Fant. Freiermuth is kind of touchdown dependent. I don't know if the target volume is there for him. Ridley, typically I'd be saying Ridley should be dominating Waddle, and I know Waddle's playing Buffalo, but Waddle's getting a lot of checkdowns right now. Ridley had a touchdown last week and had a 12. He needs more volume, so it's pretty close. Just going down the rest of this lineup, this was a lot closer than I actually expected it to be. I going into this matchup, I really thought that Roden was going to pull away with this game, but this just goes to show the grittiness of CP's team. Just every single matchup just has a shot, and there's a couple tough matchups for Roden's team with Waddle playing Buffalo, Tyler Lockett, who seems pretty much fantasy irrelevant right now without Russell Wilson in. This is tough. This is going to come down to the wire. I'm going to go with CP here winning this game in the closest game of the week. I'm going to go with a 132 to 131 win. I have a 1-point win for CP. I think this truly will be the closest game of the week.
I don't know if it's going to be close or not. I think that top to bottom, I think Roden's got a better team. And I can't wait. We talk about for weeks we've been talking about CP. Once he gets healthy, he's going to have a great team. He's only winning because teams are scoring 99 or having just awful weeks. He's not winning because his team's scoring a lot. He's scoring because teams are playing bad against him. Roden has a good team. When Roden's team is healthy, that's a team to be scared of. That if he doesn't make the playoffs, it's going to be a team that's going to be, wrecking people's, playoff chances towards the end of the season. We have 7 weeks left, so that means next week's the mid-year awards. After we see what goes on this week, it's the mid-year awards. So keep in mind for that one. Nice little, but I will say, having the Brady and Godwin, he's got a stack now. It's over. He's gonna win. And once Antonio Brown comes back, he's got a triple stack. It's over. Roden is gonna make the playoffs, people. It starts this week. It started last week when he got his win. He's gonna get a back-to-back win this week when he beats CP in a blowout. Mark my words, 144 to 115. Roden's gonna win this game. I'm telling you, Roden's back. The guy retooled. He figured out what he needed to do to get back into shape, and he's got himself a stack. Probably one of the better stacks in the league. Not the best, but one of the better ones. Roden's back, people. And I think you guys are, downplaying a little bit. Roden's back. He's going to start by beating the 1 seed this week.
I was going to pick Roden in this matchup. I was going to build up because I think CP, I was going to say he's been playing some, high-powered offenses. They've been scoring low, but what happens when he faces a team that's been not scoring so much?
Yep.
Maybe, it kind of reverses itself. I don't think Roden has top to bottom better team than CP, but I do think the stack is going to get him the win this week. Blowout, not so much. I was going to say 135 to 120.
Dude, okay, when his team's healthy, give it two weeks, whatever, you'll have Antonio Brown back. You have Kareem Hunt back. You have Michael Thomas in his lineup.
Michael Thomas is still over a month away from coming back. It sounds like.
Is that the new? I mean, I don't have him in any.
I mean, that's just what it sounds like. I mean, he could come back. That'd be right. I mean, Kareem Hunt has a couple weeks too, but it's like that. Those aren't things that Roden can really afford to wait on, right? He has his lineup now. He has to win.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I mean,
I like the bold prediction now. That's what we're here for.
It is, yeah, it is. It'll reflect on my tomato rankings in a second here. But yeah, I like I said, I think Roden has done really good trades this year. Getting the Antonio Brown Lockett for who did he trade for that? He traded Jonathan Taylor. I'm still kind of iffy on that. Then he got Waddle and Javonte Williams, and then he turns around and gets Tom Brady to get the stack. I hear rumblings that he's going to be keeping Antonio Brown and Brady as a stack next year. That's what I'm hearing right now. I don't know for sure. That's what I'm hearing right now. All right. So next matchup, Cobb, talk to us about Big Berry Sales. Actually, yeah, it's the game of the week. Some would say the 2 seed versus 3 seed.
It's one of those weeks where we get to see our co-hosts battle. Thankfully, I'm on the outside of this one because I already lost to both of you this year. So I mean, obviously,
earlier 0-2 gets the Common Dash show, huh?
I am, yeah. I mean, hey, we don't need to get into that.
Competition's undefeated, baby. Stays undefeated.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, Alex got off to as good of a start as you can hope with James Conner. Kind of reminiscent of the Jordan Howard days of getting all these rushes with minimal yards and just getting a couple touchdowns, 2 touchdowns for James Conner. Not something I wanted to see as a Kyler owner. We'll get to that when we review my game. I can give a couple cents on that. But I mean, I would assume this is it's going to be the most watched game of the week, I would assume, mainly because of the show and also because of the standing implications here. Because Alex right now is only 1 game ahead of all the 4-3 teams, and Dash is kind of on a slump right now, just losing to Roden when he had all of his key guys on bye. I mean, it's it happens. But I think this is going to be a revenge game, unfortunately, for the stack. And I know Dash is licking his chops to the fact that his stack are facing the Giants on Monday night. So Alex is going to have to get up to a huge lead early on, which he easily could with how Cooper Kupp's been going. Cooper Kupp against Houston, that should be a huge blow up spot. Same with Zeke against Minnesota. You got to hope that Dak ends up playing. I heard rumblings that he might not play, just kind of them trying to be precautious about his health. I think he does end up playing, and I think that's going to help Zeke's game. And then, it's just on the other side, you have Fournette, who, I mean, every other year you'd say Zeke. Fournette's been killing it this year. I mean, that's got to be because Dash was worried about his running backs, and he was able to scoop Fournette, and he's done nothing but produce RB1 numbers. I'm still going to give the edge to Zeke there. And then, I mean, Kelsey over Uzama. Robinson easily over Williams, Debo over Claypool. But I mean, again, Claypool should be getting the targets and should potentially be in a good spot against Cleveland. But you never know with those division games. And then Eli Mitchell, Dash has Eli Mitchell that he got somehow in that Tony trade. But I don't know. It's just, I think Alex got off to a good start. I just think every week, I mean, that stack is scary to go against, and you're going against them on Monday night against the Giants, where they just got embarrassed after they just got embarrassed by the Titans. I think they're going to want to show them something, and I think it'll be closer than that these projections indicate, but I think it's still going to be like 155 to 137 for Dash.
Alex, I'll let you go first, buddy.
I mean, this is going to be probably the toughest matchup that I have the rest of the season, especially with not having my main tight end and not having, Russell Wilson back, going up against the stack that has such a good matchup this week. This really probably is the toughest matchup that I have. And this could be a make or break week for my team. This really could be, because obviously we know 2 and 3 seed, whoever wins this game, we go to the same record, you have more points scored. And so the winner of this game gets 2 seed. And I could see this being a scenario where, if I'm able to pull this off, maybe I hold on to it and run away with the bye week. And if I lose this game, I could never see that 1 or 2 seed again the rest of the season. So I just think that this is a huge momentum game. And obviously I think you're heavily favored in this matchup. And so I think for me, what my keys to victory is, and if you go through all the matchups, you take a look at, I think what it comes down to is quarterback and tight end. Those are the biggest disparities in terms of projections. Obviously, Mahomes is projected, 10, 11 more points than Heineke. And then obviously we have Kelsey projected 12 more points than Uzama, and who Uzama really is touchdown dependent. And so that's where it comes down to me. And so my keys to victory here is, one, I need between, Kupp, Zeke, James Robinson and Claypool, their corresponding guys that they're playing, Debo, Williams, Fournette, and Hill. They need to win that advantage by, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 points or so, which is extremely doable. Especially, I have a couple of those guys have huge blow up potential. James Robinson coming off like 3 20-point games in a row. Zeke, of course, been playing great. Kupp's been playing great. So I think that's very, feasible to happen. What I need to happen is Heineke to nullify Mahomes, which is doable. I mean, Mahomes can easily blow up for 40 points, and I don't think Heineke can compete with that. But you look at even Heineke last week, I think he got like a 21, 22, and he didn't get that one goal line touchdown that he had a walk in. He chose to slide and kind of lost in that game last week. You add that, that's like a 29 that he would have had last week. And you look at his game log, I think it's very feasible for him to get, let's say, a 27. And I think it's very feasible for Mahomes to get a 27 as well. And so if Heineke can nullify Mahomes, I think we have a ball game. I do think Kelsey's going to outscore Uzama. But again, if Uzama scores a touchdown, then it becomes close. And if that forward that I was talking about can outscore you guys, that's kind of my key to victory there is, Heineke keeping it close. So Uzama needs to score a touchdown. I think if that's the case, I have a legit shot to win. But overall, I mean, you're definitely heavily favored. I never want to root against my team here. And so I'm hoping, kind of for the best case scenario in that sense. But I think it's going to be a good battle. Obviously, we know it's coming down to Monday night, but I think it definitely is going to be closer than maybe it should be.
Yeah, I don't know what the record is of me coming back on when the Chiefs play in a primetime game towards the end, so either Monday night or a Sunday night game. I'm pretty sure my record is undefeated when it comes to the stack of any of Mahomes, either Hill or actually, yeah, the past it was the triple stack of Mahomes, Hill, and Hunt. That was a Sunday night game. I came back against Cobb, against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was like they put up like a 50 or 60 combined. It's happened before where it's a Sunday night or a Monday night game where I come back. Actually, I did lose a game early this season against the Buffalo Bills when I had my guys against. Actually, did I win that game? When I went against. Hold on, that was. Okay, no, so I've lost already this season on a primetime game. So yeah, I had a Sunday night game with Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey against the Buffalo Bills. I ended up losing that game 125 to 131 to Roden. So it can happen for sure. But I think we got embarrassed last week. And the following week after the Chiefs lost to the Bills, the combined quad stack got me like a combined 90 against Cobb. So the team as a we like to blow up a week after getting dominated. And I do think generally across the board, my matchups, like forget about the stack. I think my matchups, like the fact that like you're not really running away in the other matchups at all, it kind of like, then it kind of neutralizes. That's what neutralizes. Then you add the stack in and then it's like, oh, okay, well, because you go Fournette, Zeke, Fournette gets New Orleans, Zeke gets Minnesota. That's very like, I'll give it to you, but that's not even that high, that more of an edge. Especially, and then when you say Cooper Rush might be playing, that's even more of like, they're just stack the box against Zeke. Darrell Williams, James Robinson. I know he said Robinson, but I think that could be even more like if Robinson does beat him. Let's say Robinson gets a 20, Darrell Williams gets a 14 or a 12. I mean, it's not that much more. Deebo Samuel, Claypool. I think Deebo Samuel takes Claypool in that one easily. Eli Mitchell, O'Connor. I think Eli Mitchell can get a 14. James Conner is to what Uzama is as at the running back. What Randall Cobb did on Thursday with 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. That was like James Conner's game, essentially from the running back position. But yeah, I think I win this game. I think it's going to be. I don't think it's you're out of the running for the 2 seed. I lose next week, you win next week. You're right back in it again. For me, it's not only I want to win this game, I also have to distance myself again in the scoring category because I was up a lot, and then Hotch has slowly crept back up, and now I think we're within a 40. He's in a striking distance of 40 points now for or maybe closer on the total points. I want the total point. If I don't win the whole thing, I want the total points money. Okay, so I need to put up points and also beat you. I do think I win. Let's just say, and the fact that my D guy got an 8 and James Conner got a 14, 6-point little difference there. I think we win 155 to 126. Could be a good one, though. Could be. All right. Next one, we're going to talk about Make Hotch Great Again versus Kale Farad. I'll start off with that one. I'll go pretty quick here. I like Hotch in this game. Yeah, I think Barry's team's done. Tell you what, though, the stack he went OG stack by bringing in Randall Cobb back in the day. Barry had actually kept Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb way back in the day before he brought back the stackers with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yeah, he did all he could do by bringing Cobb in, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. He's got, Hotch has Burrow and the Chase stack now. Those stacks win championships. And then Aaron Jones got 22. Obviously, I think if Dak doesn't play, it's obviously going to hurt CD Lamb with the Cooper Rush playing. But I just think overall, I think Hotch is way too much for Barry to handle, especially when Barry stack got him a 35 combined. So with 17 each, it's not enough. He needed more from Rodgers in that game. So yeah, I'm going to go Hotch 138 to Barry 118.
I think if you were to just tell someone that someone's stack got 2 touchdowns, so that's, I mean, technically 4 touchdowns total because quarterback gets 2, receiver gets 2, they get under 40 points. On top of that, Barry starting 2 tight ends. It's trash. It's not good. Maybe I'm a little bitter because I sent a Barry trade offer and he ghosted me. Just didn't respond. I heard he's not trading this year. I don't know. That's just kind of word on the street.
Wow.
Yeah. So Hotch has been climbing up the rankings. His team's dangerous. He's eyeing that. He's not just eyeing the playoffs. He's eyeing that bye spot. And he keeps getting these matchups against these teams. He keeps blowing them out of the water. I'm going to go Hotch here as well. I'll go 146 to 121.
Yeah, I have Hotch winning as well, but I think it could be a little bit closer just because I do like some of his matchups, but here's where I think Hotch wins this game. I think especially with, you're saying Cooper Rush could be playing and that could really hurt CeeDee Lamb. I could see him having, a single digit game for sure if that's the case. And it actually is leaning like Cooper Rush is probably going to play from what I've read. I have Dak in 4 other leagues, so it's not good for CeeDee Lamb. But overall, I think where Hotch wins this game is between Joe Burrow and DeAndre Swift. Everything else is pretty close, but I think that basically 19.5 is kind of the bar that Burrow has to beat. I think, especially against the Jets, that he beats it. If his projections are 24, I would take the over on that all day against the Jets. So I probably have Burrow going for a 30. So that's about a +10, +11 for Burrow. And then all Swift has to do is get a 6 to beat out, Ertz as, the flex one. And I think he's going to kill that. I think he's going to get probably his projection, if not a 20. And so I think everything else kind of nullifies itself. Between those 2 positions there, I think Hotch is going to find himself in a fairly comfortable win. I'm going to go probably like a 20-point win here. So, yeah, I'll go like 148 to 128, something like that.
If Barry can put up 128, I'll be genuinely surprised. Because the 35 between those 2 guys, it's not good. Not good. But Barry wasn't the only one to disappoint on Thursday night. We're going to go to our next matchup here with Adam versus Ryan Cobb. And some people think if Cobb does lose this game, it's some funny business going on. And it's only because he wants to win a bet. And it's pretty pathetic. I hope that's not the case. I'm going to go with Alex. Talk about this one first, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, the original projection up there of 152 to 124. And then after Thursday night, you still have Cobb projected to win right now. But again, he's only projected to win by, I think, like 8 points there, 132 now. So he basically lost 20 points in his projection. And obviously, that's because of Kyler Murray dropping a single digit. I think the only saving grace for him in this scenario is the fact that Dak might not play. And so I don't know. I need to check his bench, who he needs to plug in here. That really could be his only saving grace here. So he's got Mac Jones, who, that could definitely save him in this matchup. And, thankfully for, Cobb, if you're going to have Kyler drop a 9, this is probably the only team you can afford to do that to because he just has enough firepower around him. But still, you can't really get too complacent here because at any point, he could easily come in here and win a game. And so you just go through these matchups. I really don't think Dak plays, but Mac Jones is going to get more than a 9. It'll probably get like an 18 to 20. So ready +10 there. Next matchup, again, if Dak doesn't play, Cooper's not doing shit. So I like AJ Brown, especially with Julio. I like AJ Brown there, probably a good amount, +5. So maybe he's up +15 right now. Najee Harris, I like Najee Harris there. Wow, this is another +5. So I think he's up +20 right now. Tight ends nullified. This is where now he needs to come back into this game. I think you're down maybe 20, 25 points going into the flexes. And this is where I think you do probably pull us out. You got Kamara over Patrick. I like that a lot. Maybe +10, Mixon over Ahmad-Ra St. Brown +5. And then Cook over Gronk, who might not play. I don't know. like Cook a lot there, plus 10 again. So that's plus 20. So it's going to be even. It's going to be even for sure. I think you have to go at this point with Cobb's team just because he just has a much more rounded attack. And, even if Cooper Rush plays, obviously Mark Cooper could catch a touchdown. Anything could happen there. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Cobb's team and a nail biter, a low scoring nail biter. I'm going to go actually, yeah, let's go 121 to 118 in favor of Cobb.
What? All right. Let me just bring this. You said Joe Mixon would only get 5 points more than Amon St. Brown, a guy who's got a 0 last week. Come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. If anything, he's going to outscore him by like 10 to 15 points in there. Yeah, you're a big Mac Jones fan, apparently, because I don't think he's going to get that. I mean, his numbers haven't been that good this year. And Chargers are coming off a bye week. I don't know. I could easily see him getting a 13. The guy got a 13 against Houston. I mean, and he got a 13 against New Orleans. I mean, yeah, I could easily see him getting a 13 against the Chargers. So what? 4 points? Yeah, I think Cobb's going to win this game, and it's going to be a blowout. Guys started 2 tight ends, and he started Tim Patrick and Amon St. Brown. Those might be the worst flexes I've ever seen. Stu had some bad flexes last year, but these are awful. Yeah, I think it's not. I think it's not close. I think even the 9. Yeah, you're lucky you scored a 9 against this team of all teams. But yeah, I think who's his backup quarterback? Yeah, Mac Jones is. No other options. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cobb here, big time. To say the guy's gonna get a 140 with his quarterback getting a 9, I mean, it just shows how good of a team he has. But I do think he'll score 141 to 108. Let's give it to Cobb here. 108 to 141.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing here, obviously, Kyler Murray getting a 9 is not how I wanted to start my week. That game was the epitome of what's been pissing me off about Kyler. He has like some decent drives, and then the running backs, like James Conner, he's been getting a hell of a lot of touchdowns lately. He leaves a lot of points on the board, and this kind of game just encapsulated it. So hopefully the Cardinals move forward from this game and start to release Kyler. He doesn't rush as much as he did last year. That's one of the big things, because that kind of gave you the safe floor. Now that's just kind of gone this year, which is a little frustrating. But for my sake, I'm kind of hoping Dak doesn't play. If Dak doesn't play, I can just swap in Robert Woods over Amari Cooper. I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. I mean, it's going to come down to touchdowns. If in all of Adam's team, they all have potential to get those touchdowns. AJ Brown, obviously red zone target. Najee Harris is like that entire offense. Goddard with Ertz gone should be targeted a lot, and they're going against Detroit. I know Jalen has sucked, but this is the team to kind of not right the ship, but at least have a better stat line than he typically does. Tim Patrick, Judy's coming back, but he's still a red zone target. When he was productive without Judy, it's because he was getting like a touchdown every week. Gronk, if Gronk comes back, obviously a big red zone target. So I just got to hope my guys come out and play ball, do what they've been doing. Get some touchdowns. I think, again, like you guys have said, I'm very fortunate that it was against Adam. And I know I'm still favored. I think I'm going to get under 140, but I'm going to go 135 to 117 win here, but it's definitely not one I'm just writing off as a win, even though Kyler got a 9. So I think, and if I lose, I mean, Dash alluded to it, I do get paid, so not the worst thing, but you see it. I played all my starting guys, so no collusion here.
And what do they say about Kyler's injury after the game? I saw him limping after that play. He
came off saying he was fine, like after the game. Yeah, I might have been more to it, more to the fact that he just lost. Yeah,
the classic mistake, and you gotta pretend you're injured, so like it kind of takes the onus off the interception, even though it wasn't his fault. Yeah, terrible end. 2 points you could have used. 11 to a 9 is pretty big. Okay, so the next matchup is Stu versus Ruben. Cobb, take that one away.
Yeah, I mean, Ruben riding a high, getting a win with his main guys on bye last week. Now he gets them back, and he gets to face Stu, who's been struggling. And Stu's coming off a loss. D-Hop had an amazing play to start the game. Then the touchdown was called back, and then he just barely played because of his hamstring. That's rough to see. I mean, it hurt my team. Obviously hurt Stu's team there too. He needed a much bigger game from D-Hop, which he would have had that touchdown and stand or stood, and he stayed in the game, but that just wasn't the case. I think the quarterbacks, I'm going to give Allen the edge just because he's going against Miami. And I think, obviously, being a Patriots fan, I think our defense is going to focus more on shutting down the receivers. And I think it's going to be hopefully a running back showdown there. But, you never count Herbert out to be in a smash spot. I just think Allen is safer to blow up for like 30. And then you get Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs coming out of the bye, I think they're going to try and get him more involved. I know there was a lot of people talking about how his season was off to kind of a slow start. So obviously with D-Hop getting a 6, I think Diggs easily outproduces that. Patterson versus Hubbard. I just kind of how it's been going. I'm going to say Patterson. It's got to hurt Stu because he's a big Mike Davis guy, and Mike Davis isn't even starting for him anymore, so that's unfortunate. Kyle Pitts against Hawkinson. In past weeks, I probably would have said this is kind of a wash, but with how Pitts showed out against Miami, I think they're officially going to be using the shit out of him. So I think this is why Stu and Paul were fighting over this guy at the draft. I think he's starting to show with these coming weeks. I think he's going to ball out. And then Metcalf against Thielen. If it was Russ at quarterback, I'd say Metcalf, but I'm going to go Thielen here actually. And then Mike Williams against Keenan Allen. That one's going to be interesting because it's going to be interesting to see who the Patriots try and focus in on and try to shut down, because we're good at shutting down the number one option. But is that Mike Williams? Is that Keenan Allen? Is that Austin Eckler? I assume we're going to focus more Keenan Allen, but we'll see how that goes. Ruben gets Jerry Jeudy back too. I don't know how heavily involved he'll be, but that's going to be a great. I don't know why. I guess they haven't officially designated him to return from IR, but he's playing this week. You can look at the projections right now. I think Ruben is a heavy favorite. He's 6th spot. He's breathing down my neck, trying to jump me. I think Ruben wins this easily, and I think he has potentially his highest scoring output of the season. But I'll go 155 to 120. I think it's gonna be a blowout.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's gonna be a big blowout. I'll say 145 to 134. I think it's gonna be within an 11-point game. I actually don't mind Stu's team this week, except Cole Beasley. I'm not a fan of that one. It really doesn't help that Hopkins didn't get it above a double digit, so that sucks. You really needed that. But yeah, I think what it comes down to is Herbert's playing against New England, and I just don't think Herbert's really going to do much. Belichick loves to, especially with these guys who come in all being hot and, the new big thing. Belichick likes to kind of like quiet the noise a little bit there. So I could definitely see that. So Herbert not having that big of a game, but Josh Allen having a huge game against Miami. So that there's the one that could be the deciding factor. But yeah, overall, top to bottom, Ruben's got a better team than Stu. Diggs, Patterson, Hawkinson, Metcalf, Mike Williams, Jeudy. But I will say Metcalf isn't Metcalf with Geno Smith. He had that one bomb. Without that one bomb the other day, Metcalf is nothing. But yeah, Stu's made some decent trades though this week. Getting Hubbard and some. You got Hubbard, and you got a lot of guys this week from Paul. He ransacked Paul's team, his depth at least. But yeah, I think Ruben wins. But I think Stu actually puts a really good effort this week. He's got a good enough team to put up a good effort with everyone back, with Pitts, Hubbard, Herbert, Thielen, Keenan. I wouldn't be surprised if Stu even won this game. But I just think looking at it, I think Ruben just is a better team, and I'm always going to go with a better team. So yeah, 145 to 134. I think Ruben wins by 11.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I have it as well. I definitely have Ruben winning this matchup, but I think when you look at the flexes, I think it's pretty even tight end. It could be fairly even, if anything, Kyle Pitts over Hawkinson. But I just think that I actually have this as a very close game to begin with. But I think it ultimately comes down to Hopkins getting a 6, just kind of puts him at a slight disadvantage. And then I do like Patterson over Hubbard a little bit. He's just been putting up amazing stats. They've been using him really well. I know no one really saw that coming, but it's just we're in week 8, and that's just the truth. That's just how it is right now. And so I think between that right there is going to be Ruben's key to victory. So yeah, it's going to be somewhat. I don't think he blows him out, but yeah, I probably have him by 12 to 18, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. And the last matchup, this could be both guys really need this game this week in order to stay in the mix. We both talked about them being, kind of preparing for next year. I think one of the teams actually has a legitimate shot still this year. One of them doesn't, I don't think. But talk to me about this one. I'll start. All Paper versus ZT's fantasy team. I think Paul wins this game. I think Paul's done enough. I think has a better team than ZT. And ZT starting out Sam Darnold this week. We got benched in the middle of the game last week. It's just weird. Paul, for a 2-5 team, the guy's done so much to try and make his team good this year. I question the Kadarius Toney trade. The Jalen Hurts one I get because he needed a quarterback, and Jalen Hurts is the top 10 fantasy scoring quarterback this year. So love that. I love the Jonathan Taylor trade. Paul's done a lot for his team this year, and I gotta give kudos to anybody who's trying to make their team better during the season, and I always give credit for that. No matter if you're trading a 4th round pick or a starting running back in one of the most run heavy offenses in the league, crazy that he did that, but all the other trades were pretty good for him. I think Paul wins. Hurts over Darnold, Kadarius Toney. No, I'll take Evans over Toney. Henry, Gibson, Henry, Schultz, Cook, Schultz, Jonathan Taylor, McLaurin, Jonathan Taylor, Chubb, Deontay Johnson. Give me Chubb. Chubb's back, baby. And then Devontae Booker against Herbert. I'll go Devontae Booker on that one. Close, though. That's not really that big of a watch. I think ZT's packing up. He's getting ready for next year because this team is in shambles, especially with bye weeks of Lamar Jackson this week. I think it's time. I think Paul gets a dub this week. So Paul goes to 3-5. ZT goes to 2-6. ZT's looking at Tomato King possibilities. Never been done before, but this would be big for ZT if he gets to Tomato King. Not good for him, especially on a year we actually might switch back to throwing tomatoes. Not switch back. We actually might go to that because Stu has not done his part of the deal. Stu actually might be fined for not doing his pictures on social media every week. Not fair because Barry did it every week. He hasn't done it. Stu's only done it like once, I think. So not good. Stu's gonna be fined by the league. I'm saying it right now. Actually, the league voted he's gonna be fined for not doing it. So yeah, but Paul wins this game. And Stu has nothing to do with this matchup. Paul wins this game.
Yeah, I have.
You got it.
Okay, yeah, I have Paul winning this game as well, and it's much needed. And you look at the standing, it's kind of interesting. It's almost at that point where, like, man, those 2-win teams, through 7 weeks, it's really tough to get back in. You look at the top 6, all those teams have they all have like 4 wins. So when you do the math, I mean, you double that, right? So, top 6 have 4 wins halfway through the season. Now we're the first year ever with, 14, regular season games in fantasy. So you're kind of looking at the baseline. You're doubling that to get into the playoffs. So that's 8 wins. So you're looking at 7 games left. You need to get 8 wins to get into the playoffs. So Paul, sitting here with 2 wins right now, he needs He needs to go 6-1 the remainder of the season to make the playoffs. Now, while he might have the roster to do that, he's got a pretty good roster. It's just a tough slate for him. And so obviously this is an extremely must-win. Every single game here on out is a must-win for his team. He can really only afford 1 loss the rest of the season. And it kind of sucks. He's a good owner. He probably has maybe even arguably top 3 rosters in the entire league right now. So you hate to see him be in the kind of that hole that he's at, but I just think a lot of the matchups right now look good for him. And so I do have him, kicking off that second half of the season run with a win here. I'll give him probably a 15-point win, maybe even 20-point win, especially with, Derrick Henry, if he just has a monster game. Any one of those 3, that triple-headed monsters, if any one of those just go off and have a 30-point game, I think it's over. So, yeah, I definitely have Paul winning this matchup.
I'm gonna say, just kind of reiterating what you guys said, must win for both these teams. I think the only one of them cares if they win, and that's Paul. ZT doesn't really care about this season right now. So if I'm Paul and I lose a ZT this week, you're already deflated, and that's just kind of the cherry on top to the disastrous season that he's had. Because this, again, like you kind of talked about, this has been the season he's been waiting for. He got all these running backs. Some could say he added Jonathan Taylor to the mix, and I don't think he gave up that much for that. And it's just been kind of disappointment. I do think Paul wins here. I think trading for Jalen Hurts for pennies on the dollar was a good move. Hopefully, for his sake, Jalen Hurts doesn't end up getting benched at any point this season, which is very possible. They might, with how he's been playing. And he's got to hope Kadarius Toney is worth the price tag. So regardless, I mean, just top to bottom, Paul has a better team. And not just a better team, it's just a higher floor and a higher ceiling than ZT. So I think he wins this one. Projections are pretty close. I'm going to put it a little closer to like a 142 to 133 in favor of Paul.
All right. Yep. And I think that covers our week 8 preview. So good luck to everybody. Oh yeah, and I also meant to say that, well, it doesn't need to be mentioned, but Cobb will continue the streak, and Adam loses another game, and that makes it closer to me winning that money. Also, Stu just said he's going to do a one post at the end of the season with 18 different pictures after the playoffs, 18 different pictures. He's going to be one big post about it. I told him though,
Kind of sellout move.
He's made what he's doing is he's fucking the next Tomato King up, because the next Tomato King's mistakes will be raised for that. And I think we do have to bring back the reason why we call us Tomato King in the first place, and it's going to be after tossing tomatoes. And honestly, I as much as I say Adam's going to go winless, I hope Stu gets Tomato King again so we can actually do the tomato toss at him, because I mean he didn't really do what he was supposed to do. I know he paid for the fat head, but like as far as doing what the whole point of getting the fat head in the first place, I mean he didn't actually do it.
We agreed on. Yeah, we didn't agree for one post at the end of the season. But I think he's waiting for it to be the holidays. People aren't going to be maybe checking social media much. Just going to throw it all in one post. So it's only up for 24 hours. Kind of weak.
Can't trust these.
Disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, the agreement wasn't 18 pictures. The agreement was 18 different posts throughout the season. So yeah, I think it's a cop-out move. And quite honestly, I don't think the league should let him off the hook that easy. Maybe I don't know, whoever is Tomato King next year, and we're talking about that person having to get pegged with tomatoes. Maybe there should be some type of clause where Stu has to take one or two. I don't know what we're gonna do, but
I actually like that. Yeah, because that was not agreed upon. So Stu, yeah, you know what, Stu? We just agreed on the confidential. You can have your 18 picture post or whatever, but when we do the tomato tosses next week, you'll be a part of the tomato. You'll at least get a couple tomato tosses at you, and you have to take it.
He gets one tomato per each week he missed.
Well, as of right now, it's 6 weeks, because he did week 2 is the only week he's done.
Yeah, so he can continue. He can start posting them now. He only has to take 6 tomatoes.
That's true.
If he waits till the end of the season, he's got to. We're gonna have to get a lot of tomatoes over there.
Well, I told him that he has to do it throughout the entirety of the playoffs to make up for the 6 weeks he missed. So he's gonna have to do it to what 3 or 4 weeks more than he would if he just did it during the regular season. But yeah, so that's where Stu's at. So tomato toss next year. And you know what? I know I think Adam's gonna be the guy, but I hope it's Stu. I hope Stu somehow doesn't win another game the rest of the season and he gets 12. Yeah, but that means Adam's gonna have to win another game at some point. But whatever. Just because Stu's being defined on this whole Tomato King, what he was supposed to do with the social media posts, I want him to be the last now. So I hope I lose this bet. I hope I lose the Adam sweepstakes bet, and I hope Stu gets 12th again and his first ever back-to-back Tomato King, so he can get tossed a few tomatoes next year. But we'll figure that one out next in the following months. But I will post this clip, and I'll make sure the whole league knows that Stu's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I also have guys who are texting me who have been past Tomato King guys who told me it's not fair that Stu's getting away with this. Barry, I got you, buddy. Don't worry. We're gonna put Stu's feet to the fire. All right. So now it's everyone's favorite segment. It's the Tomato King, a tomato watch list. So roll the tape.
I don't like tomatoes and I don't think they like me. I wouldn't say I hate them and they're not my enemy. We do our best to coexist by staying far apart. I don't like tomatoes, they always make me far too unhappy.
All right, so we're going to start off here. The team I have at 7th spot right now. He just made a trade this week to get a quarterback. It's Paul Perga-Beasley. It's honestly his last move. He's got a great team. He finally got a quarterback, but if he loses this game, he won't be in the 7th spot anymore. I can't. Once you're out of contention, I can't. In good faith, I can't put you at 7th anymore in the Tomato King rankings. So 8, we're gonna go Dave Roden. Dave Roden made another trade this week to get a quarterback, Tom Brady, to give him a triple stack, a different kind of triple stack where he's got 2 receivers and the quarterback. kind of sweet. I like his team. I think top to bottom, when healthy, that's a top 5 team in the league. Hasn't been that way this season, but I think Brady might give him that extra push to give him some wins and get him back in a 2-game winning streak and put him at 3-5 going into next week. So Dave Roden. The next one I have at number 9 is Stu. We just talked about him being defiant of his Tomato King reward or punishment. He's got a solid team. I just think it's a better team than the other 3. So like that's why I have him here. It's really nothing about his team that really excites me. He's got a bunch of receivers who are just like, low floor guy or high floor guys, but really not really high. They don't really push to the ceilings, So yeah, we're gonna have Stu there. 10, I have Barry. With Devontae Adams being on COVID this week, it might have cost him a game. I know he beat Alex last week and took out the number 1 seed, but that team is just not. You're not going to get anywhere with Tyler Boyd. You're not going to get anywhere starting Damian Williams. You're not going to get anywhere starting 2 tight ends, especially tight ends that aren't top tier tight ends. I just not a fan of his team. Really don't. I don't know where he's going with it. So yeah, I have him at 10. Could very well lose a lot of games coming up here. I know he's. What is he, above 500 right now? I can see him going below 500 for the rest of the way. 11 spot, I have ZT. Just that's a team that I think I think before the season, I think he knew he needed to blow it up, and he didn't want to come out and say he wanted to blow it up. So he traded a 2nd-round pick for a bunch of picks next year, which is fine that he did that. I just don't think ZT's team is really that good. I think he needs to rebrand. He needs to get rid of that team name. It's a bad team name. It's a bad team name for the Redskins. It's a bad team name for him, and his record shows it's bad. And okay, so last one, we got our Tomato King. I think we all know who that is. That's Adam Millie. A Millie, baby. It's a bad team. Amon St. Brown. He started 2 tight ends also, 2 second-tier tight ends. There's really not much to say about this team. It's just a really, really bad team. Might have been one of the worst teams ever. And this week, especially, that he might roll out Mac Jones as a starting quarterback. I will have to take a picture of this team because for future people who hopefully won't have any more owners coming to the league. Hopefully this is the 6 to 12. But for future owners to really understand what Tomato King looks like, they're going to have to look at the potential lineup that Adam may roll out this week. And I may have to take a picture of that so people know what a Tomato King looks like. I'll tell you, if Mac Jones is the quarterback for that team this week, that's a Tomato King team. That's a textbook Tomato King team. So Adam, another week, another Tomato King for you. So what do you guys think about the list? Where do we differ?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all are going to have Adam easily at the bottom, but we actually had some differences in the ratings. I had Paul at 7, just because of all of his running backs, his trade for Jalen Hurts. That's a playoff team. That team deserves to be in the playoffs, but it's going to be hard because the teams above them are all really good. So it's going to be an uphill battle. Right behind him at 8, I have ZT. I think with Lamar, his receivers, and I mean, I still like Antonio Gibson at running back over Stu starting Chuba Hubbard until CMC comes back. Like I put him above Stu just because of that. And then after that, I have Stu, just because again, he has Chuba Hubbard. That's not going to last all season, most likely. And he's going to have to go back to McKissick or Mike Davis. So he's kind of just putting a Band-Aid on the wound there, or just trying to, hold it off as long as he can. He's also starting Cole Beasley. And then after that, I have the Stackers in Barry. With Devontae Adams healthy, I do like his team's potential, at least as far as the top half of it, with Rodgers, DJ Moore, Austin Eckler, whatever tight end he wants to roll out, and then Devontae Adams. So and whenever Montgomery comes back, I like his roster. I think that's a better roster than most. Or at least the top half of it. Obviously, the flexes we get into a little muddy water. And then at 11, I have Roden. I'm still not sold on his team. I do like the stack of Brady and Godwin, but again, this is just a team that can't really wait. Like Tyler Lockett's kind of useless without Russ. Michael Carter, I maybe will be RB2 going for the rest of the season, but it's on the Jets team that's trash. Waddle, I really like. Edmonds is okay. You're fighting against Kyler and James Conner. James Conner's been getting all touchdowns, and I'm just not a big fan of his team until some people start coming back. But that's still something that Roden just can't wait for. And then I have Adam. So
Alex?
Yeah. So for me, and this is something to note, I'll go on record right now and say it. If you take a look at those top six, I generally think that that's going to be the top six at the end of week 14 for the playoffs. I mean, obviously, we're talking about Paul, having a shot, but I think just at the point that he's down, I don't, obviously Barry is also sitting there at 4-3. Barry clearly out of those top seven has by far the worst roster. I don't see him going 4-3, down the stretch to hit that 8-game threshold. I right now don't think the rest of the season. I mean, obviously, right now someone could lose and Barry could win throughout the stretch. I don't think that one of those bottom six teams sneak into the playoffs. I'm going on record right now. The top six. I mean, obviously, the bye weeks could change. The seeding can change. The top six are my playoffs for 2021. That I'm locking it in right now. I'll put money on it. That I'm confident that those right now are the six best teams in the league. I do like Paul's actual roster right now better than maybe one or two of them, but overall, Paul's sitting in such a big hole right now that, like we said, he has to go 6-1 right now to make the playoffs. I mean, and that's the only shot that he has to do it, really, because as we've seen, even the seventh place team is sitting at 4 wins, so that translates to 8-6, getting you into the playoffs. I don't think that he does it. And so my Tomato King rankings, obviously, I'm not a fan of Barry's team. I have to put Barry at 7 only because, like we said, at this point, you're getting to the point where you can't just look at roster. You have to look at, wins and losses. If we're talking about getting to that 8-game threshold, I think Barry has a better shot of going 4-3 than Paul has of going 6-1. So for that reason, I have Barry at 7. At number 8, I do have Paul because I think that, like I said, he will make a push, although I think he falls just short, unfortunately. He dug himself too deep. I will say something about Paul's team, though. Look at me and him at moves, tied at 51. That little bastard's trying to beat me out for most moves this year. I'm coming from his record. I think he set the record last year. I think it was 104 total moves. So we'll see what happens. But yes, I do have Paul sitting at number 8. At number 9 right now, I have Roden's team at number 9, Chasing Canton. Again, he's in such a big hole. I don't think he makes the playoffs, but again, he probably has one of those better rosters. Actually, I think he has a better roster right now than Barry. But again, I just don't know if he can beat plus 2 games down the back 7. So I do have him sitting at 9. At 10 right now, I have Stu. I have Stu's team sitting at 10. I think having that 1 game advantage over ZT will, elevate him right there for 10. For me, 11, I have ZT sitting at 2 and 5. I have him at 11. And of course, for my Tomato King, undisputed Tomato King, I have Adam at 12 for me.
And
I
Paul,
was gonna say, I like Alex's prediction at a top 6. I think I agree with that. I think the people looking up, they're gonna hope CP starts to crash down. I think even though he's in first place, they gotta hope. I think that's the most likely team to maybe go on a losing streak here going forward.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, like, I agree. There's a more than likely CP probably won't hang on to the bye spot, but in terms of making the playoffs, I think that for him to go 2 and 5 down the stretch, I think he'll definitely do that, especially with CMC coming back. My projection is he goes like 3 and 4. I think he goes to 9 and 5 at the total of the season. I think he does make the playoffs at this point. We all don't really like his roster, but sitting at 6 and 1 at this point, I think he's pretty much locked in for the playoffs. That's kind of how I feel, at least.
yeah, I mean, the fact he's got a 6-1 start, he's got a really head start. I mean, regardless of how bad his team is, I think he at least locks him into the top 6. Not 1, but just in staying in that top 6. Paul's, in more to your point, Alex, the 7 remaining games Paul has, 4 of them are teams currently in the playoffs right now. So he can make a dent of his own by just beating the teams that were in the playoffs on his way to trying to secure a playoff spot. So he has an uphill battle. But all right, folks. Well, that does it for us. We'll see you guys next week as we recap week 8 and preview week 9 and also do the midseason awards. So that's always fun. Everyone always loves the midseason awards episode. So we'll see you guys next week. And also Halloween Havoc Bowl next Saturday. So I'm sure some of you will hear about it. Just predictions on that before we get going here. I know we'll probably have a show Friday, so we'll be able to talk about it a little more. But just in case we don't get a show on Friday, what are we thinking here for Halloween Havoc Bowl predictions? Cobb, I'll let you go first.
No, I mean, I thought we were gonna let Alex go first.
You know what? We'll let Alex go first. We'll let the we'll let the heavy underdog go first.
Hey man, I'll tell you what, we've been staying quiet this off season. You know, we haven't been saying too much. Normally we'll be talking a lot. There's usually a lot that we, will say going into the games, but coming off the Independence Day Bowl win and basically same roster, but you're adding you're adding JoJo over Monday, which in my opinion is a win. And so I think that we continue our hot streak. We finally got our chemistry going that second half. So I'm not going to say much more. I'm not going to give predictions or anything like that. I mean, we know how these games go. It really comes down to who gets hot. At this point, the rosters are close enough that anything happens in these games. And so I'm not gonna make any claims, but our team, we feel good about everything. Our locker rooms, coming together well. So I like us winning this game, but I'm not gonna say anything. Not gonna add any fuel to the fire.
Wow, it's very rare from you, even though you've already dogged like half my team's draft picks. So it's very nice of you, buddy. Kyle, what do you think? Where's the predictions?
I mean, I just kind of know. I don't know about the other team. I just know where our team's head's at. And morale it's higher than I've honestly seen a bowl team's morale ever. I've never seen guys come in to their second bowl game and be kind of the most outspoken members of a team. They're ready to go. I'm about to go up to a field, do some conditioning stuff up there, break into some new cleats I got. I think we took some notes about where we messed up last bowl game. We came out of the gate hot, dominated, and then kind of let our foot off the gas. We want to take it easy. We're like, oh, they're not going to catch us. We might as well take it easy. I think we're taking it much more seriously this go around, and I think it's going to show on the field next Saturday. So. Yeah,
I think I can't. Yeah, what you just said. I mean, Yagler and Monday has been so outspoken. Even Burger Beasley's like saying a few things too. I just think our team is so well-rounded, experience. We have chemistry. It's just a good team. I think Aiden, playing varsity this year might have gone to his head a little bit. And we've been reviewing a lot of his over the last 4 weeks. I mean, he's been getting kind of blown out. We're kind of figuring out the blueprint of what makes him like not be a good quarterback, keep him in the pocket. If he doesn't want to run, so try to get him on the move. He doesn't want to run, so he's like allergic to doing that. So yeah, just there's a lot of blueprints that SoCo has given us. Lake Bragg has given us. Leaving last night, I was watching. I was like, wow, this is okay. I'm like, this is great stuff here. And Fairfax even. He's given us a lot of paper. There's not a lot of footage on him going into the bowl games when he first came on last year, and we dominated him. But now there's actually footage on him, and we've been reviewing the Independence Day Bowl clips. He's done, and I think it's sad because he's coming off a hard season, his first year as a quarterback. And it was kind of a rough season. They might go 2-8, maybe 3-7, and to come off a season like that, and the next they get dominated at the Halloween Havoc Bowl. For this thing, I just think it's sad, and I don't want to do it to my nephew, but I have to do it to my nephew just to to make sure he understands how big of a deal this game is and how big of a deal having the number one pick in the Turkey Bowl is. I don't think he understands that. And whoever wins this game actually gets to rewrite the rules that they want to, and there might be an executive order coming down kind of after the Halloween Havoc Bowl. Actually, at the trophy presentation at the Halloween Havoc Bowl, there might be a little executive action coming from the champion team after the Halloween Havoc Bowl in regards to Turkey Bowl and how the teams will be made up. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it at that. But everyone, good luck this week. I hope everyone dominates week 8. For some of you, sorry that you lose, but that's the way cookie crumbles. All right. We'll see you guys next week.